Hello, everyone.
Hi.
We hope you're having a good day or good night, depending on what part of the world you're in. We're excited to be here with you today. We wanted to kind of share some information. We got a question today, and it's a question that we actually get a lot. So we figured it'd be relevant to kind of share the answer with you as well. And that question was really about vision and motivation. The person was asking, I have this vision, I have these dreams, I have these goals that I want to attain in my life, but something tends to happen that sets me back. Maybe there's something in life that gets me distracted, and I'm very motivated, for example, at the beginning, but then it kind of dies out, and then something happens that it gets me reignited for my dreams, my visions, my goals, but then it dies out again. And then it's kind of like this seesaw, but the person never gets to that place where they want to get to because they don't have the motivation or follow through to actually create it and make it happen.
And so we've had this come up like with our clients, with other business people that we've worked with, and it's pretty much across the board, and we've both experienced it ourselves. So we've touched on this topic a number of different ways, but really when this person asked this question, it really helped us clarify in a short, simple way, how do you solve this problem? You have a beautiful vision of a goal that you have for your life, but for some reason you just can't seem to keep moving towards it. And so what it comes down to is there's two aspects of this problem. And the first one is getting yourself in that right state, so that feeling where you're feeling motivated and inspired. And the second aspect is having an actionable plan.
Yeah. And realistically, it's not about depending on being motivated, because if you are dependent on motivation, it's not going to work. Because you might not feel motivated at all moments. So it's not truly enough. So you got to stop waiting for that motivation to come in. And really motivation is motive, having a motive for what you're doing. But again, if you're just waiting for that special spark where you just feel like you want to do it, you feel inspired to do it, it's not going to work long term. You're actually going to be set back because you have to go past that to truly be able to achieve your dreams and goals.
Yeah, you can't leave it up to chance.
Yeah.
That's really what you need to know, is that motivation isn't just going to magically be there when you need it. And so what we're going to do is we're going to share 6 areas of life that you need to address if you want to be able to actually reach that goal and accomplish that vision. And by areas, I'm meaning this isn't like steps 1 through 6. It's not pick one of these and try it. It's that you really need to address all 6 of these areas if you want to be one of those people that actually reaches your vision instead of constantly feeling like you're getting in your own way. So again, we understand, there's nothing wrong with you. It's totally normal, but there are things that you can do that will get you there. And so the first one is having a big enough reason why. And so he mentioned that the true meaning of motivation is your motive. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, is that you need to have a clear idea of what you want, obviously, which if you're not sure, that's okay. Sit down with yourself and find that dream. But really, what it means is that not only do you know what you want, but you know why you want it. And that why is so big and overpowering that it's almost like you have no choice but to move forward. I like to think of it like that thing that you want that you will get no matter what. And if you don't feel that passionate about your vision, then you're probably not dreaming big enough. And a lot of people will, lower the bar because they're afraid of failure. They don't think that they can have it. But the problem is that then their goals or their visions for themselves aren't motivational. And then they wonder why they never accomplish anything. And so what's really counterintuitive is that the bigger your dream is and the more outlandish almost it seems, it can actually be easier to accomplish it because the desire and the motivation is so much stronger.
And that why is so important. It's so critical and it's so basic, something that we really forget a lot of times, because if your why doesn't get you emotional to the extent that it makes you want to cry out of excitement because you want it. So if you write it down, you have it somewhere, you can look at it. When you read it, this is why I want to do what I want to do, and it doesn't get you emotional, then it's not big enough. Because you want to be excited. You want to have that why. You want to say, yep, I'm going to do it no matter what happens. Nothing's going to stop me because I know why I'm doing it. And for me, it was like getting to that place, that reminder of why we're doing. Because at one point we were like, well, we'd rather even be homeless than working 8 to 5 or, be stuck in this box. We're going to do whatever it was. And we truly meant it, that we'd rather be homeless than be stuck in a situation that we weren't following our purpose. We weren't following our dreams and things like that. So it was that commitment of truly getting to that point. So one of the things that you have to do is, with that why and with that vision that you create, is setting reminders of your vision for yourself. And for example, when we walk inside the door, we have our vision board that we always saw there, and in our room on the ceiling we have pictures of things that we want to do. Next to our bed, wake up, there's part of our vision statements and stuff like that. So it's almost like that unconscious reminder that no matter what, we have that reminder of what we want to create. So even consciously we're looking at it, it's like we're saying it mentally or whatever it is, but unconsciously what we're doing is that we're planting that seed. Because your mind has to see something in reality before you can actually create it in reality. You have to be able to believe, and if you could see it enough time, that's why we love pictures, for example. Words are great, but if we could see a picture of it, then the mind is looking for ways to create it. So whatever you need to do, whether it's putting something in your car, in your wallet, in your room, whatever it is, to set that reminder.
And so what I would say is that first you have to write it down. So again, the first step is understanding your big why. And sometimes, just a side note here, that you also have to look at not just like, why do I want it? What benefit am I going to have? How glorious is this going to be? Be honest with yourself and also ask you the flip side. What's going to happen if I don't do this? Because sometimes that negative is even more of a motivational factor than the positive desire. So you write it down first, and then you create things in your environment that remind you of it. And then lastly, you actually want to visualize it in your mind. You want to be able to see yourself doing it. So whether it's setting aside 5 minutes every day, whether when you wake up in the morning or before you go to bed, to go there, imagine not only what it would look like, but what it would feel like, who would be around you, where would you be, what would be happening. And the more depth you can add to that visualization, the better, because the brain doesn't know the difference between what you're imagining and what's real. And so if you do this enough times, then you truly are tricking your brain into thinking that it's already happened. And once that happens, then when you catch your brain will catch you in those moments where you're, using every avoidance mechanism you can think of to not take the steps towards your goal, because it's going to say, oh, well, the goal is already real, and if you're not doing it, then that's not congruent, that doesn't match up. And so it'll be there to trigger you to want to move forward without you even realizing, because your unconscious mind is helping you out there. And beyond just reminding yourself on a regular basis of what your goal or your vision is, you also need to be triggering yourself on a daily basis to get into the right mind state. If you're not feeling motivated, then you have to do something to inspire yourself. If you're in a bad mood and you're just not feeling like it, you're feeling resistant, you need to stop in that moment. Instead of forcing it in that exact moment, just even if it takes 5 minutes, do something that's going to get you in alignment with the thing that you're wanting to do. So remind yourself of your goal, listen to something inspirational like an audiobook or your favorite song that pumps you up. Watch YouTube videos. You could do some research on people who have done the thing that you want to experience in your life, just to remind yourself that it's possible. And do whatever you can, not only to trigger yourself to remember why you want what you want, but just in general, to feel good, to be inspired, to feel passionate. And that then when you're feeling good, then it's going to put you in that state of motivation. So like he said before, you can't wait around to feel motivated. It's up to you to make yourself feel motivated. And so it's really important to remember that. And I just want to point out that the 3 things that we just mentioned, having a big enough reason, reminding yourself of your vision, and then triggering inspiration every day, those address that first thing I mentioned, which is getting in the right state, whereas the other 3 things that we're going to point out address the action side of how to get to your vision.
Yeah. And another thing as far as that is that, for example, when I wake up in the morning, I used to hit the snooze button. And now I don't hit the snooze button. Part of what I do though is that I do stay in bed 10 or 15 minutes, actually visualizing my day, visualizing what I want to create. And when I go to sleep, I have this gratitude process that I say thank you for everything that happened in my day, even the small things. And then I start visualizing the things I want to create. Because again, it's all about seeing it. And like now that you were saying about triggers, you know, we have songs that we put on to get us pumped up. And I know from a personal level, if I get up and I put like a YouTube video that's inspirational, or and I put my audiobooks that I like, that, you know, I download, and I do this consistently, and while I'm making breakfast, I'm listening to them, it's like I wake up in a different reality in my life. It's like it triggers something completely different. If I don't do that, my inspiration for the day might be there, but it's not at the same level. I'm not as pumped up as I could be, because just that little thing that I do in the morning makes such a big difference. The other part that we want to kind of talk about is setting realistic goals and small milestones. You see, many people set these huge goals. I'm not saying the dreams. You want to have huge dreams, but the small goals and realistic goals is what's going to get you there. A lot of people self-sabotage, and this means that they'll set like these ridiculous goals, but within that ridiculous goal, they know that they can achieve it. So then they have an excuse. Oh, I knew it wasn't going to work. They were right. It didn't work. You know, but they kind of set themselves up for that. What you want to do is build confidence. And the way that you do that is by achieving things, by showing yourself that you can do it. So set small goals, milestones. And as you create those and as you achieve them, then you can do bigger and bigger things, because you're in the right state of being able to do that. Because you know that you can. Because now you have evidence showing you that you're going in the right direction.
And not only that, when you do achieve those smaller milestones, you really need to celebrate it. You need to pat yourself on the back. You can do your happy dance. You can reward yourself somehow. Take yourself out to dinner. You can pick up the phone and call your best friend or your mom or whoever it is and tell them about what you did. Mm-hmm. Because not only does that help them hold you accountable, but it tells you that you appreciate the fact that you took that step. And so again, you want to dream big, and you can have a long-range goal, but you really need to break it down into smaller steps, and then from there, pick what can I do now? What's attainable from where I am right now? This is especially important if you have something that you want to do that there's truly no way for you to do it right now, because there's always a way to do something. So for instance, if you wanted to write a book, it might feel like I'm not going to have the time to write this for another 3 years when whatever it is that happens. And you might think that that's true. But if you took 20 minutes a month, you'd be chipping away at your book. So just remember, it can be a bite-sized piece.
Yeah. And I know people, for example, they say, well, I want to open up a retreat center. And it looks so big that to them it's scary. And it's almost like becomes this thing of the future that the future actually never gets there. Why? Because they're not setting smaller, realistic goals that's actually going to help them get from point A to point B. Because realistic, if you want to open up, for example, a retreat center, then what are the things that would prepare you to be in that place? For example, when we first started the magazine, you know, we didn't know anything about magazines. We didn't know distribution, all the printing and everything, different things that are part of it. But we already had a foundation because we were building to be in a position that when certain opportunities came about, we had the skills to be able to do that. So we knew what to do. Well, we want to make this happen, then we need to connect to the right people, find the right people, reached out to about 600 businesses in the first month, you know, so we already kind of had an established skill set that we acquired through the process. So if you want to achieve something big, what are some of the things that you can start doing to put you in a place that you're going to be able to be ready to achieve that, ready to accept that opportunity when it comes. And what we realized, for example, is that you don't have to have the money to do something big. As you learn these skills, as you learn from other people who have done it, you might realize that other people might like your vision, might have the money to be able to do that. Other people might have skills that you need, that are excited about what you're trying to do, that want to be a part of it, and that might jump into that to help you achieve it. So again, it's all about acquiring knowledge and information that's going to help you. Most people think creativity comes from birth or from nowhere, but creativity comes from an abundance of information that you take in that then actually allows you to know what to do, to think creatively and think outside of the box and find solutions to be able to do that.
And really, it is a matter of realizing that no matter what your goal is, or how big it is, or how far in the future it is, that there's always something that you can do now, even if it's just researching, making a phone call, deciding what it is you're going to need to learn. Because like he said, you know, if you're opening something big like a retreat center, there's a lot of things that you don't know now that you can certainly do some research and teach yourself, or find a teacher and learn how to do it. And so once you know what some of those milestones are, those mini goals that'll get you there to your vision, then another key factor is that you really need to be checking in on a regular basis. And so this is in most cases on a weekly basis, and sometimes daily. If you're in the midst of doing something, you're going to be trying to do it quickly, you have to be checking in with yourself every day, because not only does it remind you to stay on track, but allows you to course correct, but at least on a weekly basis. So what we always recommend is, if you have a goal, one of these milestones, and maybe it's something that will take about 30 days, breaking it down into what could I do this week, and then from there, what could I do today? Or if I can't do it today, can I make an appointment at 3 o'clock on Thursday to make this phone call? Or am I going to set aside 2 hours in the afternoon when I get back from work? So whatever it is that you can do, not only do you need to look at what steps need to be taken, but you need to actually write it down somewhere. Get out a planner, put a reminder in your phone, whatever it is that you have to do to make sure that you've made a plan. Because even though life sometimes is going to get in the way, and sometimes you won't reach that small goal that you set at 3 o'clock on Thursday, sometimes it won't happen, and that's okay. And that's why you have to check in regularly to see, what have I accomplished, what did I have to put off, and then what's the next step from here.
And another aspect is, the last aspect is really to reflect on your fears of success and resistance, you know, for some of the belief systems you might have. And most people think that they fear failure, that's why they don't do it. But at the end of the day, most people fear success more than they fear failure. And the reason being is that we get comfortable in our own reality. We get comfortable in our own pain. But what happens when we want to create something and our brain tells us, no, don't do that, because if you do that, it's going to change your reality in some way or another, because your brain protects you. We value certainty, even if it's a certainty that we don't want. Because what happens if we make changes, then it's a different reality. It's something different that our brain can't comprehend what might happen. So what if I'm successful and I quit my job and then it fails and then I don't have the backup plan? Whatever it may be. But we have to reflect on those fears. We have to reflect on those belief systems. Maybe you have people around you that every time you say, well, this is what I'm doing, they're like, yeah, about that. You said that and you failed this time, or that doesn't work, or most businesses fail. In fact, 90-something% of businesses fail. Whatever it may be, those seeds might be in there blocking you, creating unnecessary fears. So when you feel that resistance, when you know that you want to do something that's going to help you, sometimes you just have to reflect and say, what do I fear? What is holding me back? What if I change this out of my life? What does that mean to me? And then understanding that is going to help you be able to release it, because if you can understand it, then you can release it.
And really, every one of those fears, every time you feel resistance, it's an opportunity to learn about yourself. Because that feeling, especially if you know that this is the time you're supposed to take action and you go to take it, and it almost feels like there's a barrier there stopping you from moving forward, that resistance is a signal. And so in that moment, you need to ask yourself, what is the belief that's making me feel this way? Because often those beliefs aren't even real. We just believe them. It's what we've always thought. Maybe it's something that someone else said to us that planted a seed of doubt in our mind. Again, maybe it's the haters that we've heard people say, I can't do it long enough that I actually believe it. And we don't have the answers to what that is, because for anybody watching this, we're all in a different situation. But I can tell you that when you have, you know, those experiences where you're feeling resistance, it always ties back to an underlying belief system. And one of the biggest steps is to get honest with yourself about what those beliefs are. And then by addressing them and giving them light, it actually takes away their power, and they can't control you, because you might realize what's going on in your head and saying, I'm not going to let this sabotage me anymore, because I'm going to do this no matter what.
Yeah, and sometimes you just got to trick your brain. It sounds kind of silly, but sometimes you just got to say, well, I'm going to do it anyway before my brain even starts processing. Sometimes, for example, we put music on, get all pumped up, and then just do it. For example, we didn't like to making phone calls. When we first started the magazine, we had to make cold phone calls. We both hated it. We despised it, but we knew that it had a purpose. We knew that it was going to get us in the right where we wanted to go. It was the steps that we needed to take. So what we would do is that we would put music on, get ourselves all pumped up before we even put it in our brain that this is what we're about to do. We just started doing it. We didn't let the mind take over, because sometimes when you let the mind take over, then there's too many buts. It starts self-sabotaging, starts throwing you the things that you want to do to the side. There's always a good reason not to do it today. There's always a good reason. Oh yeah, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. But most people don't, and that's the problem. What separates people that achieve their dreams is action. So getting to that point that sometimes you just tell your brain, I'm going to do it anyways, and find ways to get yourself in that right state of mind, like we said before. It all comes down to that. And then committing and having that why. If you have that why that says, well, I'm going to do it anyway, even if it feels uncomfortable right now, because I want to be able to look back at my life and then like a year later look back and say, I can't believe I thought like that. You know, even now, 6 months pass and we're like, we can't believe we were there.
Who's that?
Yeah, who's that? Because it's like we're at a different point of our reality because we're open for growth, open for change. So the more you get used to it, the more you get used to being uncomfortable, the more you get used to uncertainty. And realistically, if I'm not afraid, then I'm doing something wrong. If I don't have a certain type of fear, then I'm not pushing myself. And that's what I strive to keep growing and to keep going into those spots that make me uncomfortable so I can make the impact that I want in the world.
And so really what it comes down to is that, like we said in the beginning, is that motivation is not enough. You can't wait for motivation to happen to be there in the moment. You're responsible for creating the motivation. So again, it's just really two things. One is getting yourself in the state you want to be in, feeling motivated, feeling inspired, and then develop enough momentum in that then you are going forward so fast that you can't even resist yourself, because you're going to have to take that next action because you've done the work to get yourself in the right state before you take action. So, we're saying uncomfortable, that's good. Pushing through resistance, that's good. But don't skip that part of getting yourself in the right state, because if you just force yourself to do it when you're in a bad mood, it's not going to end well. It's not about, I'm not motivated, I'm going to do it anyway. It's, you know what, I'm going to get motivated. And so that's also your responsibility. Get motivated and take action.
And we look forward to sharing other tips and strategy as we go along. We'll be doing a lot more of the live videos just to kind of give you some tools that you might be able to use to help you get from point A to point B. We're all in this together. Obviously, if you're watching this video, you're one of those individuals that wants to keep growing, wants to keep developing, wants to make a difference in this world. So we thank you for sharing your journey with us and allowing us to be part of your journey, which allows us to do what we love to do, which is share the information that we've learned through our journey, because we all want to plant seeds of change. So thank you for what you do, and thank you for your commitment for contribution and growth.
And thank you for joining us.
Take care. Have a good one. Have a good night, day, or wherever you are in the world. Thank you.